The Visiting Artist Program, funded by PAFA's graduate program, brings an outstanding roster of local, national, and international artists to PAFA each semester for lectures, critiques, and workshops. The program exposes students and the public to a range of artistic approaches and fosters discussion about contemporary art and ideas. This afternoon, we are pleased to have Loie Hollowell joining us. Known for paintings and drawings that explore the bodily landscape, Loie Hollowell's practice exists in the liminal space between abstraction and figuration, otherworldly and corporeal. Originating in autobiography, her work explores themes of sexuality, pregnancy, and birth. Hollowell's geometric compositions use symbolic shapes such as the mandorla or mandorla, ogee, you'll have to pronounce this correctly, I'm sure, and lingam, I do know that one, to build her distinctive visual lexicon. In referencing her own personal experiences, Hollowell's paintings are at once personal and universal in their fierce vulnerability. With strong colors, very textured, and geometric symmetry, Hollowell's practice is situated in lineage with the work of American artists like Agnes Pelton, Georgia O'Keeffe, and Judy Chicago. She is also greatly influenced by the work of the California light and space movement, as well as neo-tantric painters like Ghulam Rasool Santosh and Berende. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Loie Hollowell. You may now begin sharing your screen.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm going to share my screen right now. Share screen, share. Okay, I'm going to start. Okay, hello. So I've put together a bunch of images, and I'm going to start with the work I made. Let's see, I graduated from grad school in 2010, I think. So this is 4 years after grad school. I was back in New York City in a tiny apartment, and I was art handling and making paintings after I got back from work. And so these paintings were really small. I would just make them in my bedroom. I was with someone and I got pregnant and I wanted to get an abortion, and it was a very contentious situation and that he didn't want me to. I did. It was emotionally and physically intense. So I started making paintings about that experience. And these were some of the works that came out of that experience. At the time, I was looking at a lot of Birchfield, Charles Birchfield, Arthur Dove, a lot of Kay Sage too, which I guess, I don't know if that really ever came through, but Kay Sage, Arthur Dove, Charles Birchfield, Pelton, Agnes Pelton, Florence Miller Pierce, all the neo-tantric paint, or non-neo-tantric, the TPG, the Transcendental Painting Group. So anyways, I just wanted to share a few of those. But those little paintings got me into some group shows in which the work sold. And then I was offered a show with a gallery called 106 Green, which was an artist-run space in Greenpoint. And I made a series of works, this being the first. And I kind of took the images and the ideas that came from that experience with the abortion and kind of expanded it into a sexual space. And I would just, tried to abstract my vagina, my butthole, parts of my kind of sexual body that I was, have experience with on a daily basis, but wanting to abstract it in a way that I could have a conversation that was more open-ended and fluid. Some of them were more direct. I was experimenting with putting bits of hair in. This is when I started kind of doing a swirled texture, and I was mimicking hair. I was trying to mimic hair, but then I found that it actually worked really well for blending. The ogee, the shape at the bottom, is an architectural term that's basically, it's a structural term. It's like two S shapes that are, you'll see it in a lot in like Middle Ages, Islamic and European architectural traditions, that it's just kind of like a kind of decorative arch shape that is also structurally supportive. Yeah, so I just expanding into the headspace. All of these paintings are about the size of my torso. And I was really interested in making the paintings be in scale with the conversation that I was having with that part of my body. So these are kind of headspace paintings. Those first two were small and that they kind of encapsulated my vagina, uterus area. So here I was thinking about licking, licking a region of the body, another region. So, you know, the mandorla kind of became the symbol for my vagina. And this I wasn't talking like this forwardly necessarily when I first started making the work. I was more interested in just how people were responding to it visually, phenomenologically, formally. The conversation and the comfortability, the comfort I have with saying vagina, butthole, whatever, uterus, abortion, even the act of talking about, even the process of talking about the abortion is something that's come with like many years of distance from like processing what this work meant to me. This is, you know, exploring this transformation of vagina to penis, kind of just trying to like formally break apart thoughts that I have around sexuality, my own body's relationship to sex and my partner, and bringing it into like a formal space, a painting space where I'm dealing with color and form and composition. So here was that show that I was given at this Gallery 106 Green. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paintings, I think. I was still working in this tiny little apartment. And the show did really well, and I got a lot of really good feedback. That red painting there in the center was a lingam. I was trying to have, I just made this little vagina, which is a mandorla, with these penises coming out surrounding it, the lingam being penis. And I guess I called, instead of saying like yoni, like that shape is a yoni, I liked our kind of more geometric term of mandorla being the term that I use to be the abstract of my vagina, just because it's even more detached from like the actual vagina term, whatever. Anyway, so there we go. I'm going to try and go a little faster. Here's another view. So this is one of the first paintings that I started building up the surfaces. I really wanted to start playing with actual light and illustrative light. So I just was in these little, in that little penis balls dip there, which I guess could also be like tongue and tonsils. I built it up with sawdust and also, you guys can't see I don't have a cursor that goes over it. Anyways, the two kind of side legs that are coming down are built up as well. And it was so subtle that you really had to actually move up to the painting to see the built up surfaces. But in a kind of tricky way, the light was affecting the surface very subtly, so that the way that I built it up, I was actually, the real light hitting the space embellished what I was painting onto the surface. This is another one where the whole thing is undulating, ups and downs, everywhere where I've visually illustrated a rendering of the chiaroscuro space that is actually raised, an actual raised space. Probably the height of the painting, 2.5. So it's coming off 2.5 inches. So if the flattest area is nothing, the highest rendered, like built up area is 2.5 inches. So 3 inches. So these big the little butt cheek sides are, I think that's what's coming out 3 inches, and everything else is kind of rendered a little less undulating as it moves out. But anyways, I was kind of interested here in these paintings. They're getting a little bigger. I wanted to put more of the full body in. So I'm kind of, you can see this. There's kind of like that vase image, an MC Escher type of trick of the eye, which is which is the face going in and which is the face going out. So there's this kind of like penis figure, this erectile man figure upside down with kind of a full figured buttocks woman, hair ablaze, going up. Or maybe those are her breasts. I'm not sure. It's kind of it can be fluid. So I don't have side views of this, but with this painting, I started finally figuring out that I needed help with the production of my work. So this semicircle at the top, I had milled out of foam at a CNC, a company that does CNC milling, glued it on. I don't have a side view, but that's what's actually coming out 4 inches. It's actually coming out less than 4 inches. It should maybe like 3, I think. And then I was really interested in, you can see that white line along the edge of that semicircle. That's actually sponged texture, a texture. So it's not painted, that the edge is physical paint sitting on that cut surface. And you'll see later paintings where I've implemented this. I've kind of continued to use it. I'm just going to keep going through these. In these two, the bar at the bottom is what's coming out 3 1/4. Another show, so that 106 screen show led to another gallery offering me representation, and I did a show with them, and this was it. I'm just kind of, I think it's interesting to like look through the career, just into an artist's career, and just see the kind of exhibition compositions that they've put together and the kinds of spaces that I've been in. I don't know, it's just like an interesting timeline. I don't know how helpful it is. From the beginning, this shape in the middle, the mandorla, is coming out 4 inches. The other top and bottom shapes are also undulating spaces. This is the first painting where I finally decided I should probably have side views of the work taken. I don't know why I hadn't figured out that I should have a photographer take side views. But anyways, this is the first piece that I cut into the surface of the panel and put the shape, built the shape into the space. So this is like a bowl. It's like the mandorla is a bowl that is going in. Color and light are kind of central characters in my work. It's always kind of the guiding force that leads me through figuring out how to move from one composition to the next. So in this one, I'm working with color as a character, and this one in opposition, an orange red, and just really interested in how color can create an intensity and a phenomenological experience, going back to my upbringing, knowing, being around the light and space artists in California. My mom both my parents are actually really intense burners. They go to Burning Man, or did when there was Burning Man, every year. So I grew up around a lot of like neon and fluorescent and bright, just, lots of bright colors. And so I'm really interested in trying to get the oil paint to that intensity. I thought it was interesting to kind of share where my head is at when I start a composition. I'll make multiple versions of an idea before I actually settle on making the piece, because the piece is really labor intensive. It takes about a month or so to build up the surface, to work through the process at times with the CNC miller, to then glue it onto the surface, to then put protective layers over that. So I really have to make some decisions in terms of what I'm going to construct before I start a painting. So drawing, you can see where it's built up a little bit on the edge. So drawing becomes a really crucial element to, just getting to the place of even starting a painting. And I think of my drawings as, so here you can see, I made a red one, a greenish blue one. I was like, neither of them work. I'm going to create a combination. There's the kind of swirled texture. This looks like it's, I'm rendering it as if it's, like curtains falling, but they actually are. They're descending in structural depth. They're kind of this undulating sculpted space. So that actual light hitting each of those is real, but also painted. Another kind of visual series to kind of instruct how my mind's working to get to an image, which is this is the painting. This texture of the sponge, I use a scouring side of the sponge, the green side, to create this sponge texture with just pure, I'll just mix up a bunch of paint and just dab it on there. And I really like it because it's almost like it creates this like sparkling effect, but it's also it's both sparkling and really absorbent and rich. And I think it's really interesting when in dialogue with the kind of actual light and painted light that I'm creating with the sculpted paintings. Another way of playing with color and real light. This is one where I cut into the surface again. So that bottom bar is, CNC milled and glued on to the surface. And then I, chopped off half of the painting basically and reconstructed a bowl, like basically a bowl shape into it. The other side is the reverse, again, CNC milled bulbous shape glued onto it. So you can see, like in this show, okay, so after that show, I kind of gave some pictures of last time. I started working with Pace Gallery, and this was this was one of the first exhibitions I did with them. And I was really interested in dominant recessive, both the idea of dominant recessive, like, I'm a straight cis woman. I have a husband, a male husband, and we have our roles, our gender roles in the bedroom. And I was interested in playing with that kind of dominant recessive space, mental space in relationship to dominant recessive color and dominant recessive like in and out. So that's why this, one painting, I'm pushing it in and pulling it out in the same space, and also playing with color in that way as well. Kind of trying to think of which color is coming forward and which is going back. Very, very simple, kind of stupid questions. But there was a lot of primary. Oh, and then I showed all of the drawings that I made for, like, the whole idea of the show, both drawings and paintings, was all thrown into this space together. Then I got pregnant with my husband, and I had to start making paintings about, the process of being pregnant. So I kind of became less, I guess it became more geometric and almost like maybe futuristic in a way, but taking the body, taking my portrait, thinking about myself in painting portraiture, and how to break apart my body into geometric elements that I could then make into module. Oh my God. Module shapes that could be like put apart in different areas within the composition of a 6 foot. I'm not 6 feet tall, but I'm like 5'9", but I thought 6 feet could kind of encompass my body, and I can also get my arms around the 4.5 foot width. So it's still something that's my relative. So here's a pregnant portrait of myself. The bottom butt shape is the 3.5 inch depth. That is like a shelf. So that yellow you're seeing there coming off, that yellow and white, is both light reflecting off the sponged paint that is yellow, and it's me kind of embellishing the paint as well, but it's also reflected light. Breastfeeding, feeling like a cow and a a milk factory after giving birth. All these little fingers grabbing at me. Postpartum plumb line. Yeah, with this painting, you know, there's a whole, your body is so messed up after giving birth that I was kind of thinking about myself as a kind of like realigning, my spine realigning after carrying so much weight in front of me. Thinking of my body as kind of a plumb line, you know, the architectural term of the plumb line, the plumb bob. Actually, I have one here, a little plumb bob that kind of creates the center, the straight up and down vertical. I was looking at a lot of futurist painting and thinking about how to illustrate, how to visually depict the movement of space. This is the cycle of my, you know, the juggling of my tits, my nipples, these orange red ovals being like the time. I can go in. Anyways, I'm interested in you looking at them just visually, but yeah, this was like the constant cycle of breastfeeding and kind of deciding which nipple is going to be destroyed for that feed. Here's my first show in Manhattan in the gallery, in the new building that Pace just built. It's their new gallery headquarters. I did their first show there when the space opened with this work. This is kind of like the crowning, my portrait, myself in front of like my crowning, like 9 centimeters dilated. more milking. I had another kid. Like I had to make more paintings about myself breastfeeding. Then I just had to simplify, go back down, go back to a smaller scale. So I did a series of very simple compositions where it's just 2 splitting orbs. And I was thinking of basically my chest is splitting open and maybe it was belly. I don't know. It's parts of you just being split open when you're giving birth. So I made a series of these orbs kind of opening up. Each one's a little more open and playing with, you know, the color in between and the central kind of spine of pain. I mean, it's pain. These are all about giving birth. And kind of the sensations at, you know, the contractions and the rest, the time of contraction and the time of rest, as kind of visualizing those as color field, color expansive, radiating energies, trying to take myself back to that experience of giving birth, especially the second time, because I did it at home during the pandemic with a midwife. Thank God I had already prearranged that because no one was allowed in the hospitals at the time. So I would have been birthing alone at the hospital. So yeah, I was much better. I was much able, because it was such an intimate experience, to remember what it felt like during each kind of intensifying contraction. And then here's the show. I did a show with Koenig Gallery in Berlin. And kind of each, you can see the first 2 paintings on the wall are maybe an inch apart, 1.5 inches. And then that last one at the end is 9 centimeters. And that's what your cervix dilates to before the baby starts to push out. You can really start pushing. Or you can't, your body makes you. It's not like you get to start pushing, your body just makes you start pushing. Another figure painting. I just, you know, when the pandemic hit, I really wanted to loosen up and kind of just get more playful again. I felt like I'd lost a lot of the playfulness that I had when I was in grad school, and specifically with those little abortion paintings I had shown you at the beginning. I felt there was a freedom to that work and a kind of a more complicatedness to it that left room for more fun. So this butt plug shape in the middle that was kind of like the descending pregnant belly is carved into the space, and the other ones are all coming out. Oh, sorry, no, the head at the top is also a bowl shape. Yeah, so another thing that happened with with my first pregnancy, I took a body cast of myself right before I went into labor. And so I had this cast of my body, and I just thought it would be cool to have just as a document. And when the pandemic hit, I just really had kind of a breakdown in terms of how I related to my work. I was a mother of two in the pandemic with two babies. I mean, my kids are like a year and a half apart. So breastfeeding was just like a constant, all day, every day. So I decided I needed to make paintings about breastfeeding more directly. And so I took those body casts, took my body cast, and actually, with aqua resin and the help of my husband, who's a sculptor, cast them onto the painting surface, and then started painting on it. So the mandorla there is flat. Just the nipples, just those little tip parts are coming out. Because of the pandemic, I was back to drawing again. It's so great to draw. Drawing's the best. I draw with pastel, soft pastel on pastel paper. Just started making drawings. This is my belly cast onto the surface of the panel. I have no idea. These are very new paintings, even though I made this last year. It wasn't 2 years ago. Oh my God, 2020? Oh my God, I made this in 2020, but I feel like I just made it. I have not processed these paintings yet. So I started casting my friends' bodies as well when they were 3 months pregnant. This is my friend. I did embellish these breasts. She does have large breasts, and when she was pregnant, they were quite large, but this is embellished. Basically like that bottom half is hers, and then I kind of sculpted up into the surface with the help of my husband, who is the sculptor, sculpted that into the canvas space, and then made all the little milk nodules. And then more friends were pregnant. So these are some other friends, full term breasts with full of that colostrum milk, the good healthy stuff that the newborn needs. Again, I don't really know how to process these paintings. I just made them. I'm still in the process of making them. It's very strange to just put tits in a painting. It's like sexual, but for me, it means so much more. And I think that's hard for everyone to see a tit and not instantly sexualize it, but it's hard. For me, they're very unsexual. They're very like functional and life-giving. I was thinking about the kind of communication about breastfeeding that you have with your fellow parent friends, strategizing on how to do it. More drawings. And this is one of the more recent paintings. I can't say too much about it because I'm still kind of thinking about them. That's it. So I have no idea what time I'm at.
Yeah, I got lost with you. It's I guess 12:16. So we have some time for questions. Thank you so much. That was very generous and amazing. Even just sharing that you can't talk about these yet. I think, you know, we relate. We get it. It's like too fresh. You're
Ask
like,
me
I don't
questions
know.
about them, then I can talk about them. But
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. So I will go to the questions and yeah, thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead with the first one. And if anyone has something to drop in the chat, this is the time. Our first question, oh, it is from Marley. I was like, do you use any type of photo references for these forms? Like,
do I don't, no, I do not. I think that I have tried to, and I have made drawings with kind of like looking at maybe there, I did one recently where I was trying to look at the bone structure of the, what is it called? Where the, basically your torso, where the baby comes out, the kind of carriage there.
the pelvic
Floor, yeah. And I made a drawing with that and it didn't work. It was just too visually directive.
Yeah, so this is really like seeing through the perspective of the body, not from the from the inside out. Yeah. All right, questions, y'all. Come on, now's your chance.
How many people are on? I can't see anything.
Oh,
Are there?
We have 35 people are here.
Okay.
They're just maybe as in awe as we are. Oh,
Jill I can see.
Has maybe we're not ready to talk about what just happened either. Jill Adler asked, what materials do you use for the belly and breast casts? And like, what was the trial and error process like?
Yeah, so I started with like an epoxy resin, and the surface wasn't quite right for painting on. So now they're cast out of aqua resin, which is like a really kind of like plaster, but it's like super sustainable and really dense. And then I glue that on with an epoxy resin onto the linen covered panel. And then all the geometric things that I have milled out of foam, it's like a high density closed cell foam. They make like signs out of it, like outdoor, building signs, surfboards are made out of this stuff. It's like a kind of a, who knows, like gonna last forever and ever and ever, probably impossible to degrade material.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the sustainability, and the surfboard reference was perfect. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. How do you?
Yeah.
Ashley, Lily has asked, was your work always geometrical and reflective? What was your work different in grad or undergraduate school?
I wish I should have put some grad stuff on here. In grad school, I came in as a kind of a really loose figurative painter. And then made some abstract moves with various materials, and then very quickly went back into the figure with kind of a compositionally symmetrical lens. And I don't know, I can't explain why, except that I was always referring to my body and kind of looking at it as a point of reference. And that kind of asymmetrical symmetricality was something I was always putting into the work. And then I made some like some plant paintings that were always kind of symmetrically composed. And those were in reference to the body as well. But once I saw G.R. Santush and Bearden Day and all the neo-tantric painters that were coming out of tantric image making, it didn't necessarily like give me the go ahead to keep I guess it kind of felt okay to keep going in that direction, because it's a constant question, like, can I just keep going in this way forever?
Thank you. We've got one from Ashley. How do you experiment with getting oil paint to feel fluorescent? Do you do color studies, or it says, is it just the color next to it that makes the color feel fluorescent?
Yeah, that is, yes, that's like that's where the joy is in the studio, is that exact quest. And it's all about relationship. I mean, that's all color is relational. And I mean, I think a high quality pigment is really good, but I don't even use that fancy of paint. I use like Williamsburg mostly. And even within that, you're going to get really rich pigments. And I do in some paintings, like this one, that black there in the center is actually a raw black pigment that I mixed into the paint to kind of get rid of any like the extra linseed or whatever the binder was. So it is like pretty saturated, that black there at the center.
Oh, I might need somebody to take over. That's a lot. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just so excited about all that. Ready to go paint. Gloria asks, I'm definitely in awe. Fascinating, powerful. Thanks for the insights, information. Impressive. Clarissa wants to know, what techniques do you use to achieve such clean geometric shapes and color gradients?
So the geometric shapes are, you know, a lot of those shapes, like this, you know, this is painted by hand. I mean, obviously I have a compass and I draw out this oval, but I'm painting it by hand. But with something like that, there's by hand. I mean, I'll often like make a template on tracing paper and just kind of go back over each layer and make sure that I'm following this template. But these shapes, you know, these are constructed shapes. These shapes are set onto the in and on the surface of the painting. So I'm following a physical object that is sitting on the surface or within the surface. Again, with these, those are actual shapes glued onto the surface. With something like this, I know I didn't tape that black area either. I just kind of, it's pretty wobbly. Again, tracing it with there's no, so I'll use tape to like do that center, see that center sponged white line. Like that I would tape. That was taped. But in terms of, and actually that the white sponge line of the flow of milk coming out, that was taped where I sponged. Because with the sponge texture, oh no, I must, yes. So I did tape this black area because that's sponged. So I needed a nice clean edge to keep that texture in tow. Yeah, most of the other areas are all done by hand. And then the second part of that question was the blending. That's just like wet on wet. I mean, it's just like this circular motion, just over and over and over and over and over and over, blend. And then the sponged area where these receding shapes are going, these receding, cascading shapes, that's blended with the sponge.
Marley is asking, does living in New York City affect your color palette as opposed to the color influences of your childhood?
I think living in New York City has a counter effect in that there's the light in the city, especially, you know, in the summer, is more dappled. And so I think I'm more attracted to bright colors and a multitude of colors within each painting, probably more so because I live in New York City. And I'm just like trying to create a bright space in my studio.
Lily's asking, do you ever feel you have to justify making feminine art or self-referential art?
When I was asked to work with the Foyer-Mesler Gallery, I think it was at a time when a lot of galleries were reaching out to women, specifically women that were kind of making reference to the body. And I wouldn't say that figuration was to its to the appreciative nature that it's at now. In like the mid 2015, but there was a move towards it, towards like bringing in conversations of the body and like moving out of that like zombie formalism that was coming before. So I think that I didn't ever really have to defend it. I did in grad school for sure, which is why I moved into abstraction for a while. I was not supported in the way that I wished I could have been when I was painting the figurative paintings I was in grad school. It probably would be a different story now. I don't know. I was there in 2010. Oh no, I was there in 2010 and 12. Okay, yeah, 10 and 12, 10, 11, 12. Anyways, I would know. I had to fight in grad school, and then as soon as I got out, it's why I moved into the abstract space that I did when I was painting those abortion paintings. Because I was like in my head, grad school, like, don't do that, don't do that. No one wants to see that.
We do. We want to. I'm so glad you did.
Well, I mean, it's worked itself out now, but those figurative paintings I was making, I haven't gone back to that. I mean, this painting, I'm left it on here with the actual breasts. I mean, that's like the closest to figurativeness that I've gotten to.
What's next? Like, is that something that you're like being called back towards?
Yeah, very much. And yes, that is being pushed against, actually, these paintings in particular. I think bringing in the body in this way is aggressive in a way that what is known of my work has not presented that aggression. And I enjoy that, like, not the defending of it, but having to figure out how to articulate for myself what it is that it's doing differently that I haven't been getting at before. But that's why the language, I can't discuss it with you guys because I don't quite have the language, because I'm not ready to defend it or whatever, because I don't know if I'm going to defend it. I know that I'm going to keep making it, but I don't know how to like sell it to you.
Oh. It's interesting. I think we're about done with questions. Marley did say that a few of your pieces make them think of the book Tantra Song. So, and
yeah,
there's a link to that book in the chat.
Yeah, Tantra Song was really influential for me in the beginning of, right after having that abortion. That was like a book that I was introduced to that influenced the practice significantly.
I mean, yeah, so I'm just gonna, like, my last thing before, if anyone has like a last minute something to say, put in the chat real quick. But I really like the cast breasts, like with the impressions, like there's like, it's like a fingerprint, so it's so close to the actual. And I think that's a really interesting, like, I'm excited to see what you do next, because I want to see them in person. I want to, like, I just think there's like so much with the direct and indirect and
yeah, that's the issue, right? It's like, how much do you share because it's important? How much do you want to share because it's important to you and you can't get it out of your head and you need to make work about it? And how much of that information is crucial to the formal needs of what a good painting is and requires to transcend and be beautiful and informative for a viewer who isn't in your head. you know, that blending of content and form is always, you know, especially I feel like as I, you know, when we move into new ways of making, is the, yeah, that's the constant struggle.
Yeah, it is like the surface, you know, you're like jumping into the studio, like you've been like slowly creeping off the campus into the gallery.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
whole person.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah. 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 I think it's yeah, it's interesting to do that in the space that I'm doing it, and that I've been established for a certain kind of work. And so there is a bit of defensiveness I do have to take in terms of saying I'm not going to provide this kind of work for you right now, and I need the space to do this for myself. Yeah.
Take up that space. All right, so we've got some thank yous and words of praise in the chat that I will you'll have access to. We've got one last thing. Do you have a show up close to or in Philly? We need to get in front of your work.
I wish. Philly's the best. I don't have anything right now. I don't have anything. My next show of where I'm going to actually kind of like really excitedly present these body paintings is in at the UC Davis Museum. It's called the Minetti Shrimp Museum. It's where I grew up. And they were the first to approach me and offer me any kind of like real museum show. And it's a small space, but I'm super excited to give them like this work that feels really vulnerable to me, because that's this, you know, the home ground is where I feel like I can be vulnerable. So that is where this work is going to be shown. And it's like amazing. I like a museum show, even though it's a tiny little room within the museum. That's where it's going to be next.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you've got some oh, Melanie Koch has put, okay, yeah. There's some links and everything. I'll be sure y'all to
okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not looking at
this.
it.
And Clarity Haynes said, thank you, Loie.
Oh, hey, Clarity.
Clarity, if you want to unmic and say hello, please do.
Shout out, girl.
Hey, it's so good to hear you. My first time whole story related to so much. And yeah, I'm so glad I was here. Thank you.
I should have mentioned you earlier, but Clarity was also a really big influence in like thinking that I could just go back to my body and like cast my breasts, because there aren't too many people out there who are just like embracing that directness and just being unapologetic. Or not, you don't even have to be unapologetic, just doing it because I don't know. So anyways, Clarity, you're a big influence in moving in this new direction.
That's amazing. And breast casting was part of what influenced me years ago in the 90s to start doing breast portraits, because breast casts are actually portraits. They're just sculptural. And
yeah, that's how, yes.
Doing breast casting. And so I was like, oh, I want to do portraits. So anyway, it's all one big circle, isn't it?
Yes. And I think the kind of beauty of getting to have that experience, which I didn't talk to you guys about, but like casting my friends' bodies, 2 weeks, I think the closest I got was 2 weeks before someone's birth, is just such an intimate and beautiful experience of then giving them this portrait of a time in their life that they'll like a very specific time in their life, and sharing that experience and then getting to re-engage with their bodies again is amazing. So I get to have those conversations with those friends each time I make a painting. I'm like, oh my God, I figured out your breast in this composition finally. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm excited for the day. And thank you all so much. Clarity Haynes, you're also responsible for me being brave in my work as well. one of the encouraging voices that I hear in my head when I'm saying no, and I'm like, oh no, it's okay. So thank you for that. I'm excited you're gonna have a crit with Sherry Rossini. She did some breast casting too. I can't wait to hear about that conversation. I'm like compelled to call them out to speak, but we are just about out of time. So I will let you all back to your day.
Thank you guys. I look forward to meeting with everyone later.
Yes.
Or who's ever signed up. I appreciate that.
And we hope to see you all back again on February 2nd for our next visiting artist, D'Angelo Lavelle Williams. And have a wonderful rest of your day, y'all.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much, Loie Hollowell. That was amazing.
Ciao.